The Innovation Theater at CSCMP Edge 24 is sponsored by Gaines. Move forward faster.
Hi, I'm Mark Baxa, President and CEO of CSCMP. Delighted that you're here on the Innovation Theater stage here inside the Supply Chain Exchange. So on behalf of CSCMP, I want to welcome you to the second actual annual 3V's Business Innovation that we have prepared for you. This is really about the best of startups and innovation contest. We're thrilled to have you, all of you, together today for this incredible and an impressive group of companies who are gathered here. It's an exciting time for our industry. I think you'd all agree. We're having a lot of fun right now. And this truly is an event that celebrates the cutting edge ideas driving the future of supply chain. So before we dive into the contest, and I welcome Rick Blasgen and Art Mesher up, I'd like to acknowledge Art himself. Art continues to be inspirational in shaping the way we think about supply chain ecosystems. His pioneering work and convergence and innovation continues to inspire leaders across industries. Today, as we gather to showcase the fresh talent and groundbreaking solutions together, we honor his legacy of forward thinking and collaboration. I want to extend a special thanks to our sponsor, Gaines, the sponsor of the Innovation Theater. I'd like you to visit their booth next door and explore their cutting-edge composable travel kits. These customizable skincare and makeup kits reflect Gaines' commitment to adaptability and personalized solutions tailored to your unique needs and highlight their belief that small incremental changes can lead to powerful transformations. So now I'm going to get out of your way. I'm going to introduce Rick Blasgen and Art Mesher. And best of luck to all of our contestants today. Thank you all for joining. Art and Rick, come on up.
Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate it. So visibility, variability, and velocity, that's the 3V's, right? That's question number one. What does the 3V's stand for? And Art and I had a conversation 4 or 5 years ago talking about, hey, how do we bring this to life and how do we get recognition for our new up-and-coming companies, people who are experiencing and displaying, demonstrating the 3V's, and then startups that are also demonstrating those 3V's as well. And so whenever I have a conversation with Art, I set aside an hour and a half because that's about how long it's going to take because
so unfair.
He had so much to do with the supply chain discipline that we enjoy today, Art. So thanks for all that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have a series of presentations. Everyone's going to come up and they're going to present. And then we're going to have a tally with our judges. I just do want to introduce and recognize our judges. Amber Sally. Where's Amber? Is she here?
Yep.
Back here, right back here.
Stand up. Stand up. Wave
Oh,
at the crowd.
there she is,
Photo
right
op.
here.
Got to look at
the
the
supply
photo
chain
op.
technology
Photo
exec.
op. There we go.
Thanks, Amber. And then Lori Mitchell-Keller.
Yeah.
Where's Lori? There she is.
Photo op. Yeah, there we go.
And Pat Martin. Here's Pat. Take a picture, Pat. You gotta get. You never know where. And then there's Liz Ward right here. Take a picture, Liz. We'll get you in the brochure. And myself, I'll be a judge as well. So we're gonna have a series of presentations and a couple of questions that are gonna be kind of close on time here. So right now, I want to introduce. Well, first, Art, do you want to say a couple of words?
No, I'm just happy that everyone is here. A couple of years back, I was paid a visit by Don and Debbie Downer. And all they did is talk about how everything we do in supply chain is broken and how nobody's ever successful with anything. So I said to Don and Debbie, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And Rick and I had a chat and said, we got to find a way to celebrate people being successful and support what we're doing. So you're here to celebrate the success that these people have and to promote this innovation because what we do really does matter. It really does make a difference, and we are successful. So let's just use this as an opportunity to applaud our innovators. And despite the winner, the other two are not losers. They're winners also. So let's just remember we're here to support the innovation, but someone has to win. So game on.
That's right. Thanks, Art. Thank you. Let me invite Keith Moore from Auto Scheduler AI. Keith?
Actually, I'm bringing my own.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, thank
right
you.
ahead.
Close it. Very honored to be here. Thank you, everybody, for having me and listening in. My name's Keith Moore. I'm the CEO of Auto Scheduler AI. I am based out of Austin, Texas. So if you guys ever make it down, please look me up. We'll do beer, barbecue, coffee. We'll have a great time. I want to start with a question, which is why do we use GPS today? So it's something that wasn't really invented and commonplace until a little over 10 years ago. But I can barely drive to the airport today without turning it on. And the reason behind that is my GPS not only tells me how to get where I want to go, but it tells me how long it's going to take, what I need to look out for along the way, and potential problems that I'm going to run into. So I'd ask the question of you guys, which is, what is the GPS for supply chain? What tells us how to get where we want to go? Which begs a more important question, and I'm going to ask it for distribution and warehousing, which is, where do you actually want to go in distribution and warehousing? For a space that's fairly simple, you'd be surprised at how multi-objective the answer is. You see, to a planning team, their objective for distribution is everything needs to ship on time. For a transportation team, there needs to be no dwell time, no detention, every trailer turn the second it needs to be. To the production facility that might be nearby that's getting raw materials and pushing out finished goods, so long as the warehouse gets them what they need and takes away the product that's finished, they don't really care what happens inside of that distribution facility. And then to the people that are actually running the warehouse and running that facility, they need to maximize service and minimize cost. And what's interesting about this is that the actual value to the supply chain, if everybody does their job perfectly, goes down the deeper into this equation you get. To the guy who's the facility manager, there's only so many dollars and cents you get by reducing a head count or managing your labor a little bit more efficiently. But the ramifications of not shipping product on time to a Walmart are absolutely massive. However, the power and the actual oversight that that warehouse manager has on the overall supply chain and the planning team is massive. So when you actually look at the systems that the people inside of warehouses are using, you'll realize they're quite complex. You run into a warehouse, you're going to see a YMS, a WMS, potential integrations with TMS. You're going to have all sorts of spreadsheets, different whiteboards that people are using, pen and paper. I mean, I don't know if anybody here's been in a warehouse, but I don't think I've ever been in a warehouse where the team managers running the facility didn't have multiple systems open at any point in time. And so in those operations, you'll find that tribal knowledge comes at an absolute premium. In fact, decision-making is the most premium skill set inside of a warehouse. And if you actually look at research by Gartner, they did a study and it was 96% of supply chain leaders said that being able to execute decisions quickly was a focus in the warehouse, but less than 10% felt equipped to do that effectively due to siloed organizations that they were dealing with. And there's a second problem that a lot of large companies have run into, which is we used to live in a world where you would have 10, 20, 30 years of experience in running a facility. Over 80% of operations, the people that are making decisions on the floor have less than 4 years of experience, which is a huge turnover in tribal knowledge that is causing massive problems at major organizations. That's why some of the world's biggest consumer packaged goods companies, food and beverage manufacturers, and 3PLs have started to work with AutoScheduler. They've realized that all of this data that is impacting the execution grand central station of their supply chain is making it harder and harder to run sites. And after a while, as our friends at Frito-Lay said, you can't just do slightly better in the warehouse. You have to actually do different. You have to think about how to orchestrate flows throughout your facilities so that your warehouse is enabling the rest of your broader supply chain. That's where AutoScheduler comes in. We launched 4 years ago with Procter & Gamble and have scaled up since then. And what the platform actually does is it pulls in all of these disparate data sources, your production scheduling system, your WMS data, all of your work in progress, where your people are, what your transportation needs are, into the singular platform. And it is continuously planning what the facility needs to do. So what's going to be cut? What are you actually going to ship? What inventory do you have? When will it be ready to load? When can you tell your carrier that trailer is actually going to be ready? How do you need to sequence that work? What trailers and what door at what time? And what people are working on every piece of equipment at any point in time. And to your facility managers, what that means is you have an application that tells you what transportation changes you need to start bubbling up to the rest of your supply chain. It tells you what's going to be late, what's going to be on time, what's going to be early, and what you can do about it. How you need to plan your labor. When do you need to call in overtime? Where are you set? And where are you overstaffed, which is a super common problem in warehousing. What is constraining the flow of product through your building? Every site has a unique constraint, and as one of my friends at a major grocer that we're working with was calling out, is the constraint and bottleneck in a warehouse is constantly moving. So understanding where that bottleneck is and what to do about it is critical. And to these managers, you're dynamically receiving alerts. We're telling you exactly what you need to act on and what you can do about it. And you can communicate that effectively with other leaders in the facility that are making decisions and collaborate on a single platform with all of the data in one place. To the people on the floor, you're able to orchestrate your operation in a way that you've never been able to do before. We're talking about what are you doing right now? What trailer are you loading? Where are your people working? How close to done is it? Where are you budgeting the rest of your headcount? What inventory is going to be shipped? Where is it in the building? When is it going to be done? And at what point do you need to start notifying folks in the rest of the supply chain on problems that are going to come up 24 hours in advance? Never before has anybody ever had the power to actually look at a load and understand and go communicate to a carrier 24 hours in the future. This is when you can come pick it up. It might be early, it might be late, in a perfectly balanced operation. That's what AutoScheduler brings to people that are actually taskers on the floor, making optimized decisions at every point in time continuously with all of the data at their disposal. And it's more than just a platform. We lead to very clear outcomes with the major shippers that we work with. So a reduction in 50% controllable cuts, which may not mean a ton to a lot of the folks here, but to a big CPG, 50% reduction in controllable cuts is about $1 million of product going out the door every month that wouldn't have otherwise. 12% increase in productivity, and that's generally the floor that we see. 12% to 30% is the common platform, which at a site with 50 people, that's a very large number from a headcount reduction. 33% reduction in detention and dwell, which you can then use to negotiate with your carriers for better rates, so you're saving money on transportation. It's not just a cool platform that gives you all your data in one place. We are actually showing results for some of the biggest organizations in the world. And we're super excited about what the future holds for us. The future's very bright. In the future, we're talking about a network from the floor labor down on an operation all the way up to the chief supply chain officer, understanding what happened, having visibility into the current state, and orchestrating the future of the total supply chain. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Question. We got time for just a couple questions for each one of our presenters. Any questions? I'll repeat it. Yes.
How long? I got it. The question was, how long does it typically take to deploy? So certainly comes down to technical maturity of wherever you're deploying, but most accounts that we work with, the first site we budget about 3 months to make sure that we get the data right. Every site thereafter that's running the same configuration of systems, so WMS, production scheduling system, whatever data we're integrating with, it's about a month. We've done it as fast as 2 weeks, and we've had some that go longer than 3 months, depending on data readiness.
Anything else? Yes.
Edge of the stage. So the question was, what is the difference between my product and a control tower? So what is warehouse orchestration versus a broad-based control tower? I'm going to answer this a little bit fuzzily, in that the term control tower is overused for a large variety of kind of software compendiums kind of piled together where you're making decisions in one place. There's a lot of different offerings claiming to be a control tower that all provide slightly different value. That said, if the definition of a control tower is a system that pulls data from disparate systems into a singular place, provides visibility, insight, and optimization for decision making, you could consider us a warehouse control tower.
Great. Keith, thanks very much.
Thank
How about
you
a
all.
nice round of applause for Keith? Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. We're going to quickly swap out the laptop here, and while we're doing that, we're going to hear from DaVinci Micro Fulfillment and Corey Aperian. Corey's the CEO of DaVinci. Sure.
I'm Corey Aperian, the CEO and founder of DaVinci Micro Fulfillment. Really want to thank CSCMP for having me today, and congrats to the fellow participants as well. Really amazing business models. DaVinci Micro Fulfillment is more than an e-commerce solution. We're a partnership to maximize growth. Ultimately, 80% of consumers expect same-day and next-day deliveries, but the reality is that only about 30% of deliveries are actually delivered in 2 days or less. I'm going to share a case study from one of our clients, one of the largest toy manufacturers that fulfills on Amazon.com. They have a large cube item, and ultimately they were fulfilling this product about 100 miles from their manufacturing plant in Ohio in the middle of the US. But based on the cube of the item and the velocity of that product, they were unable to fit all of their sales every week, over 50 truckloads of parcel shipments into their truck, resulting in missed SLA, no prime badge allocation from a fulfillment perspective, missed revenue opportunities, bad customer experience, and they couldn't fit everything on their dock and in the parcel carriers that they work with. So DaVinci Micro Fulfillment, utilizing our tools that we built, which are centered around really 3 core concepts, very similar to the visibility, variability, and velocity, but front-end merchandising, network optimization, and our physical location network, which allows us to place inventory based on predictive analytics in our network of micro fulfillment centers. What we did for this brand was we took an 8-figure business and turned it into a 9-figure business. We reduced 100% of their late orders into 0. We increased their revenue over 25%, increased their net margin over 10%, simply by understanding their cubic velocity and their merchandising assortment, and understanding, very much like an end cap in brick and mortar, where to seasonally and regionally place their inventory in DaVinci's network of purposefully placed micro fulfillment centers across the US. And by identifying their top performing products and strategically placing that inventory, we could turn it faster, create a prime badge, create the right customer experience, offset their internal capacity, and we turned that into a 9-figure business for them. Our 6 micro fulfillment centers today are very purposefully placed, so we hit about 20% of the US in same day, 85% next day, and 100% 2-day ground. As a tech-enabled service company, we understand exactly how to take the data from our brand partners and measure that cubic velocity to turn their inventory very purposefully, so we're not storing it. We're a growth engine for brands who are selling through multi-channel fulfillment and able to capitalize on the optimization with our network. But by placing that inventory closer to the customer, we typically see over a 25% increase in conversion at the market basket and over a 25 to 30% decrease in the cost of fulfillment. Our technology is built to integrate to any channel that's out there, and we meet supply with demand. So we built machine learning algorithms to understand where to predictively place that inventory so it's available for same-day, 1-day, 2-day fulfillment across our network. Our secret sauce is really that interoperation of all of these different tools. So by understanding where to place the inventory and building the technology to help our brands manage that, we're able to be efficient and agile in our network so that we can continuously turn inventory. And the more inventory we turn, the higher the profitability for ourselves and for our brand partners more specifically. And by having this approach, without storing inventory and always turning inventory, we can have a different type of pricing model that's built on that single piece fulfillment that actually lowers the total cost of fulfillment as you sell more inventory versus selling back storage, freight, and labor, which works really well when you're moving master cartons and pallets, but in the fulfillment of each is a very different unit economic and a different model. Our team also has over 60 years of e-commerce experience, and by that we can strategically help our brands understand how to grow online and how to manage the day-to-day blocking and tackling really needed. In the early 2000s, I was one of the first dropship partners for Amazon in 2004. Most major retailers' first integration. I've been lucky enough to really, as I like to say, step on every landmine in the industry. So that's given us the ability to really see around corners and be very purposeful in how we help our brands in the model that we've designed in the ecosystem today. We started the company in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic, ultimately launching our first micro-fulfillment center, and shortly thereafter, about 3 months after we launched, signed our first few brands and went off to the races, building our technology and additional micro-fulfillment centers from there. 2023, last year, we were awarded an agency partner relationship with both Walmart and Amazon, and have been looked at as an industry expert. Next year, we look to launch some automation in our buildings to help increase our throughput and capacity with some selected partners. So our technology stack that we developed really utilizes real-time data to measure not only where inventory needs to be placed, but where it's going, lead times and MOQs inbound to our buildings, as well as understanding the channels and the categories that we're serving. All of this data is housed in our environment that we utilize and look at market basket analyses, demographics, as well as ultimately the characteristics of the supply chain in that given month, to bring that end cap approach to seasonal and regional fulfillment. And that really helps us continuously turn inventory and give us somewhat unlimited capacity in our micro fulfillment centers to continue to grow our partners' business. Leonardo da Vinci had a concept that everything was built in direct proportion, and that's really the secret sauce of our model, is the combination of all of the things that are needed in order to grow in the e-commerce environment. So by looking at the front-end merchandising, the assortment of the products, the market baskets, what items are sold at the different online channels, the replenishment cadence, the MFC operation itself, we're able to take all of these components into one and make that into a growth engine for our brands that we do business with. And ultimately, by 2030, consumers are going to expect same-day and next-day deliveries, over 80% according to a global McKinsey stat. And Da Vinci is going to be very poised to help deliver on that, as we already are today.
Yes, questions?
So as a parallel model to like an FBA network, how do you deal with taking your partners and enabling them to manage just right inventory in your fulfillment centers? In other words, do you use a penalty system, or what do you do to make sure they don't have too much or too little inventory in your network so you can maximize the utilization of your cube?
Yeah. A lot of our algorithms are based off of a min-max predictive analysis. Ultimately, we also offset a lot of our own capacity with buildings that are in similar zones. So if we're off on one zone, we're backed up with the next closest zone, which has a really impactful component on the cost of fulfillment itself. But ultimately, we're looking at the different min-max, the predictive analytics, the market baskets, demographics. So we're able to predict, but we also compare it with statistical forecasting tools. So that enables us to really zero in. And there's no forecasting tool that's perfect, but we're over 90% accuracy.
Other questions? Anyone? Judges? Yes, 1 second.
How large are the micro-fulfillment centers?
I'm sorry.
How large are the micro-fulfillment centers?
35 to 50,000 square feet.
Great. Anything else? All right, how about a nice round of applause for Corey and Da Vinci. Next up is going to be Perfect Planner and Tom Beal.
Hello, my name is Thomas Beal, and I am the CEO and founder of Perfect Planner. I'd like to say thank you to CSCMP and the 3V's of supply chain for letting us be on stage today, and to the other finalists who are fantastic. Today I'll be discussing enhancing velocity, visibility, and variability in material planning and buying. So the agenda for this presentation is talking about what is material planning and buying, the challenges of manual planning, enhancing the 3V's with Perfect Planner, and time study results. So material planning is a critical supply chain function where analysts manage the balance between supply and demand. And that usually includes tasks such as monitoring inventory levels, managing safety stocks, placing orders for replenishment, and addressing disruptions like shortages. The impact stack represents the information flow that flows from the customer through to material planning. So it starts at the customer, goes to sales and marketing, demand and planning, master scheduling, production scheduling, and finally material planning. Any errors or changes that occur at the higher levels impact the lower levels. So literally material planning is at the bottom of the stack. To make matters worse, they also have to contend with everything that production, quality, inventory control, logistics, sourcing, and vendors are doing. So this is a function that we usually entrust in our companies to relatively junior analysts, yet they kind of hold the keys to the kingdom. So you would think the tools that we give them to do the job would be really proficient, dynamic, but ultimately what most planners get, specifically in material planning, are tools that have been in process for 25 plus years. A bunch of system screens, spreadsheets, and homebrew tools that they're going to spend 75% of their day doing every single day. So the root cause in what we saw in our research was a lack of capability. And the way to increase that capability is to address the 3V's of supply chain, because those are the three areas that this lack of capability manifests itself. With Velocity, we're dealing with outdated systems and tools that create excessive administrative burden. We also have a growing skill gap of people who actually know how to use these systems and use spreadsheets. For visibility, most planning teams are doing quite well if they can see out 7 to 10 business days. Well, when average global supplier lead times are 37 days, well, there's a huge gap that's not being seen. Plus the limited scope of visibility. Most planners are sharking and patrolling, trying to find, hey, here's a shortage issue, here's an opportunity, and then their focus is on that, not realizing that they have 10 other things that they need to do. And of course, it's always a black box for leadership. For variability, this usually is seen in two different ways. At the planner level, it's not a standardized process. Everybody does it different. There's no cross-training, and there's a lot of human error. On the SKU level, we know that, as PFEP tells us, there needs to be a plan for every part, because every part has very specific variability that needs to be seen. And so it could be that, one part is completely different from another, and usually that's the case across the board. So what we did was we designed Perfect Planner, which is a true comprehensive material planning system. And our goal is to enhance the 3V's of supply chain and really tackle this role by automating 75% of the function. So for Velocity, we simplify the planning process. And planners walk into automated weighted task lists for them. They're comprehensive. Everything they need to do is on that list, and it's organized and prioritized for them when they walk in the door. We use AI to complete that step. And what this does is bridge that skill gap, because we need people to execute, not to work spreadsheets. For visibility, we extend the planning horizon to 6 months. That means we can see out very accurately, over 99%, if there are shortages, if there's surplus issues going on, or obsolescence risk. And what we are able to do is pinpoint where there are supply gaps or where there's a surplus, so that planners can take action proactively instead of reactively. We also provide complete task lists so that planners understand the scope of work that needs to be done every single day. And this eliminates the leadership blind spot, because leaders know all the tasks that need to be done and what's being done about them. For variability, this is one of the most important aspects of Perfect Planner. So we standardize the planning process. All planners do it the same way, regardless of the organization or industry. We deliver 99% accuracy on our insights. But what's really amazing is we calculate over 2,000 things for every part every single day. If anything changes with a part, we see it, we can pinpoint it, and we can empower planners with data and data insights that allow them to make good decisions as they are working their to-do lists. This really includes root cause analysis and lean analysis. Unless we know what happened, we're going to always face recurring issues. So we need to address it at the source, which is why we provide full spectrum root cause analysis. To put this into perspective, we completed a time study where we brought in a planner who has 7 years of experience in multiple Fortune 500 companies, and we provided them with the data, basically mimicking an SAP environment for 50 part numbers. Any larger of the data would have crashed Excel. So we asked them to pinpoint shortages, let us know if a part is phasing in or phasing out, perform root cause analysis on all those projected shortages they find, calculate demand and consumption variances, inventory metrics, and locate savings. So comprehensive analysis. With disruption-free time, the planner, after 7.7 hours, came back, provided us 4 weeks of visibility, found 11 shortages, $89,000 in savings, and had overall accuracy, due to human error, of 88.4%. In comparison to Perfect Planner running the exact same data sets, we did it in less than a second. Provided 26 weeks of visibility, found twice as many shortages at 21, $154,000 in savings, and we did not make an error. The key takeaways here is that was for 50 part numbers. There was no disruptions, no interruptions for that planner to do that. It's physically impossible when planners are managing 500, 1,000, or 1,500 part numbers that they can do the comprehensive analysis that's required to ensure materials health. So that's where technology comes in. If we have effective processes, like a process-driven solution like Perfect Planner, and the right technology, we can really enhance the 3V's of supply chain, specifically at the function level. And the outcome is savings of up to a 90% reduction in shortages and expedites, 300% improvement in productivity, which is we automate 75% of the role, and a 40% reduction in inventory. But ultimately, Perfect Planner has just recently come onto the scene. So we had our prototype ready in September. We have 9 NDAs with companies that we are working with, and our commercial product, based on the voice of the customer, was completed and launched in April of this year. And so we're very new, but we are willing to put it to the test, and anybody who would like us to run their data will do it for free. And thanks again for having me.
Thank you very much, Tom. Questions? Any questions for Tom? Yep. Oh, hang on one second.
So in order to be able to do this, you have to be able to get data from somewhere. Where are you pulling the data from, and how are you getting real-time updates, or are you getting any real-time updates that are affecting your planning capabilities?
Yes, that's a great question. So we pull the data straight from the data tables behind their MRP or ERP system. So we have a standardized data map that works with most of the systems and a very robust configuration profile that allows us to not only pull their data and pull it frequently using their raw data behind their systems, but we can be up and running in 48 hours.
So as you launch your product and plan to grow your company, what type of organizations are you targeting?
So since planning occurs in all industries, we have actually been talking to a lot of different companies, from manufacturing to even hospitals, defense, oil, and really now recently retail. Because again, the theory applies the same for both, whether it is your demand planning, you're buying, you're spot buying, or you're doing old-fashioned material planning like manufacturing environments do, again, supply and demand. So it's about the same.
Yeah, I'm curious how your pricing works. Is it just one-off kind of analysis? Oh, yeah.
Oh. So that's the best part. So our entire team, that's a great question. I'm sorry, I'm like half deaf. So our entire team's from industry. We really want to help. We're here to really resolve problems that we resolved while we were with large companies like Honeywell and Whirlpool. And ultimately, our pricing model is incredibly economical. So we just charge a flat rate on a subscription for every part we process. So if you have 10,000 parts, we charge a flat rate. It's very economical. Usually ends up being a few thousand a month, depending on the size of the company. But our ROI is typically triple digit.
Thanks very much. Perfect Planner, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we are going to move into now our startups. And the first presenter is going to be Edmund Zagorin from Orchestro. Here we go.
Hey everyone, can everyone hear me? All right, my name is Edmund Zagorin. I'm a procurement guy, I'm a data science and AI guy, and I'm here to tell you why we're excited about Orchestro and give you some reasons to think that maybe, just maybe, predictive procurement changes everything. But first, show of hands. Who here has participated in a procurement process, either as a seller or on the procurement team? All right, now keep your hands up if you enjoyed it. That's right. The process of procurement in big companies is broken. And it really goes to the question of how do we collect quotes? Because the problem is that collecting competitive quotes from suppliers is a painful bottleneck in any enterprise supply chain that compares cost, quality, and delivery. First of all, in a lot of manufacturing, things are single source. It's also hard to compare apples to apples. And quite frankly, when things are moving quickly, it can be hard to get multiple quotes. And this is a problem that I have lived and that we have helped large enterprises in oil and gas, automotive, and food and beverage solve comprehensively and at scale. And this problem costs large manufacturing enterprises tens of millions of dollars every month. Antiquated tools are leaving money on the table. This is not speculation, folks. We have the data to prove it. This is a list of a month's worth of transactions from a large enterprise. And as you can see, a combination of short-staffed procurement teams and rampant inflation has created the perfect storm for overpaying across a huge range of indirect materials product categories, not to mention logistics. Orchestro approaches this with a fundamentally unique methodology. We use AI to embed suggested offers and instant feedback to make every quote a competitive deal. Our AI does three things. It simulates a procurement cycle before it begins. You can name your price to the supplier with a suggested offer, and you can orchestrate a cycle to get a best and final offer. Now, the behavioral science of suggested offers is what makes this interesting. Germany and Austria are two countries right next to each other. They eat the same Wiener Schnitzel, they wear the same lederhosen, and they by and large speak the same language. But in Germany, only 12% of people participate in the organ donation program, whereas in Austria that number is 99% or higher. Any guesses as to what the difference between these two programs is? That's right. In Austria, they are pre-enrolled. That's right. The default outcome is less work for the people that have to make the decision. And this is a fundamental insight into decision science within the supply chain. In fact, data shows that this is especially true in price negotiations. Experts agree that naming your price creates leverage in procurement negotiations, and one study suggested that over half of the variance in outcomes are attributed simply to who went first in the negotiation. Our data shows that this is true at scale for quoted prices from suppliers across a range of manufacturing industries, and indeed, without an AI-suggested offer, average savings is around 4.8%. It is more than double that when AI proposes the price to suppliers up front. Orchestro recognized this opportunity because we are procurement and AI domain experts combined, just so happened, with the founding team of a company called Ariba, which is a big procurement company in the 90s, and they scaled to giant enterprises. That is the team behind Orchestro. And as you can see, we also have a great board member in Jeffrey Immelt, who ran General Electric as its CEO for many years. Analysts have recognized that Orchestro is a market-leading technology. We were not only recognized as a cool vendor by Gartner, but last week, Spend Matters, which is the leading analyst for technology for strategic sourcing teams, in a comprehensive scoring methodology comparing all solutions in our space, suggested that Orchestro is the leading technology globally for strategic sourcing teams, especially those that work in manufacturing. And we believe that the future of quoting and supply chain will mean better deals faster. Yes, in the old world, humans created quotes, and sellers proposed pricing, and better deals took longer, because let's face it, every salesperson knows that you anchor high so that you have room to negotiate down. This is sales 101 for all of these manufacturing sub-industries. And in the new world, the quotes will be drafted by AI. The buyer will propose price using data from across their enterprise, amassed at great scale. And the better deals will close faster because the initial quote will begin further closer to the finish line. And so, we believe that this future will be delivered by Orchestro. Orchestro's suggested offers via email can make quoting a one-click activity for suppliers, whether it's done on a desktop or via their phone. And instant feedback and counteroffers deliver faster best and final to the procurement organization, ultimately meaning that their business stakeholders are happier and more confident in procurement's outcomes. Our AI procurement simulation engine can be embedded in every major ERP and procure-to-pay system, and we have over 1,000 pre-built API integrations. That's why we're excited about predictive procurement. But that's not it. I know that some of you in the judging pool are potentially investors. You should know that our total addressable market is large enough that if Orchestro has less than a 10% market share, we can still exceed a 100 billion market cap for ourselves. So thank you. That is one of the many reasons that we are excited about predictive procurement, and we believe that Orchestro's predictive procurement orchestration will change everything. Thanks so much. I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Edmund. Thank you very much. Questions for Edmund and Orchestro? Any questions? No? Judges, anyone? Any questions? All right, that means you did a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, next up is Bill Peterson. Bill is from Flying Ship. Let me see if I get that.
I'm Bill Peterson, CEO and founder of Flying Ship Technologies Corporation, and we have over $200 million worth of commercial customer commitments and engagements across multiple government agencies for a new type of craft that is transforming the global logistics industry. So we're all very familiar with these major supply chain challenges, from gridlock in infrastructure, restrictive regulations, expensive overnight freight, and very pollutive forms of transportation. There are no options for time-critical, price-sensitive delivery for green products that you want to be delivered using green technology. So that is why we have created unmanned ground effect vessels that are classified as maritime vessels, just like hovercraft, because they don't leave this dynamic cushion of air that's sandwiched between the wing and the ground. And because of this, we're able to reduce the cost over traditional aircraft by 75%, and they're 10 times faster than anything on the water. Using green technology, we can provide tens of thousands of additional access points around coastal regions. So here's an image of one of our 6.5-foot prototypes. You saw in the video, some of that was CGI, but a lot of that was actual footage of our craft. Here's just a mock-up of one of our vehicles. You can see one of our craft actually in the bottom center, right there. Again, that has about a 6.5-foot wingspan, and it's high-speed, green, flexible, affordable transportation that is very scalable. You can scale this to be able to deliver tens of thousands of pounds to virtually anywhere with a coastline using autonomous systems and hybrid electric powertrains, opening up billions of dollars worth of revenue for logistics companies and driving down the cost of current routes. Here's a cutaway of some of the designs for our larger craft, being able to use LD3 and LD9 cargo containers. Both of these options have refrigerated variants. Looking at the current market, air freight is very expensive, limited to airports, and very pollutive. Now, there are a couple of types of ground effect vessels that are coming to market right now, but they are all people movers. None of them are focused on moving cargo. And going down the list, looking at aerial drones, I love this technology, but they're facing tremendous headwinds from the FAA and the other regulators, and it's crippling the urban air mobility market. And finally, traditional maritime freight, very slow, pollutive, and it's limited to congested ports. So looking at the market that we're targeting, it's a massive, massive market. More than $2 trillion market, and I can tell you that one of the companies on here, we are in a teaming agreement with, and we're engaged with multiple branches of the U.S. military. So we've just finalized the design for a 500-pound payload variant that'll go several hundred nautical miles, moving at speeds of more than 125 miles an hour. Where not only are we in teaming agreements with multiple customers, but we do have those $200 million worth of LOIs. We've received accelerator funding and grant funding from the state of Virginia to finalize our product. More than 50 successful prototype flights, filed multiple patents on this technology, and we're working with the Navy and Air Force on multiple programs. So right now, we are just finalizing, putting the final touches on 2 flying ships with a 25-pound payload. But as soon as we're done with those, we're going to be cutting the frames for 2 variants that have a 100-pound payload, and we're scaling this technology all the way up to be able to take 6,000 pounds of payload, 1,000 nautical miles, moving at speeds of 150 knots, so about 170 miles an hour. I myself am an aerospace engineer with an MBA. Spent my career building supply chains for the world's largest aerospace and defense companies. But we've got a fantastic team behind this that have come from most of those major aerospace companies. Within the next 3 years, we're on track to capture $300 million in revenue with a 40% margin on each craft. And we are opening a round to build the next version, this 500-pound payload one, for a Caribbean customer to begin doing routes throughout the Caribbean. So with that, pause and take questions.
Thank you, Bill. Questions? Questions? Dale?
Yeah, if you have to fly within ground effect, how are you dealing with high waves or very variable seas or other ships that are on the water?
Yeah. So to fly within ground effect, it's just like any other small boat or small aircraft or medium-sized boat or medium-sized aircraft. You're not going to operate in every single sea condition. So with our current design, we can operate in about 90% of all global sea conditions. And we've got AI navigation systems on board that identify craft on the horizon and navigate around them.
Other questions? Yes.
What would be the ideal characteristic of a transportation lane that would be in the sweet spot? Look at all the different modes of transportation. Vehicle really excel at?
So, time-sensitive, price-critical freight, medicine, food, any kind of retail, anything that's high-end that you don't want tied up into in a logistics chain, right? So, it's really air freight, the air freight market, but being able to drive down the cost by 75% is what we're targeting.
Any other questions for Bill? Bill, thank you very much. Flying ship. Appreciate it. Next up, we have Tom Moore from Provision AI.
Well, you guys have been really patient sitting here for the last hour, so thank you. How many of you here are shippers? None. Now that's a good start. Let's spend a couple of minutes and talk about what problems shippers face. Everybody wants to save money, right? That's a big thing. Everybody wants to deliver to the grocery shelf on time in full. Important. Sometimes those things are contradictory, right? Sustainability is a huge item right now, okay? But only 16% of companies are prepared to spend more money to have more sustainable transportation. How do we solve this problem? Well, traditional planning processes are pretty good in theory, right? We've got a supply plan, we build loads, we send it to the ERP, we tender it, a couple of days elapse, the carrier shows up, we load them, we're done. Sounds great, but what really happens, okay? First of all, we build loads. But when we build loads, we analyzed 158,000 loads in the state of Georgia. And of those 158,000 loads, 91% didn't fill up the trucks. 91%. So what does that do to your cost and your sustainability? Okay. It's not good news. So we then, we tender and we send things to the TMS, but what really happens there? Well, we've got our preferred carriers, and the preferred carrier says, well, sorry, I'm busy on Tuesday, get lost, right? Because we have these things called carrier contracts, which really aren't contracts, right? They're kind of like, I'll give you freight for this price, but you don't have to take it. Yeah, let's have just a sort of a nice relationship. So preferred carriers refuse it. What does that mean? It means you're going to carriers you don't want to use, or you may not want to use. And that hurts you both in terms of cost and in terms of time. I mean, spot carriers, for example, may not drop trailers. Makes it more difficult for the plant. There's an additional cost associated with that. So really, that's not a good situation. Now we've got this 2 to 4 days before the carrier shows up, and what happens in that time? The forecast was perfect when we built the load, right? It's not perfect anymore because we've had a lot of shipments, we've had all kinds of things that have changed in that time. Maybe inventory we thought was going to be available is not available anymore. So what does that do to us? It hurts our cost, and it hurts our on-time in full. So the current planning process, as it's designed today, doesn't serve the needs that we have in a dynamic 3V's type environment. It just doesn't. Now we get to the last guy on the thing, Joe the loader. Okay? Some of you have met Joe. Joe's a good guy. But unfortunately, Joe may not be able to put all the product on the truck because of over axle, or he didn't pick the cases right, or something happened that he just can't get it on. And so you end up with a truck with just a problem, and it comes back to the dock and we reload it and everybody curses Joe and Joe curses the trucker and all those things. And at the end of it, we may not ship all the things we wanted to ship. So now we've got on time, in full, and cost. So the current planning process is somewhat broken. Now let's look at this new concept of tendering early and then later determining what we're going to put on the truck. Okay? Little dirty secret here, guys. If you buy a new air conditioner at home, it might be brand X, but that may have shipped in a box with a little cutout there. And that box says, oh, we're going to brand X this time, so we put the label on through the box, okay? And that's called late differentiation. So I'm not going to mention which brands would do that, but there are quite a few, I can tell you. So we're going to say, let's take the supply plan and work out how many loads we're going to need, send that to the ERP, and have the TMS tender it. Now we can do this a lot further in advance, 4 to 6 days, maybe even 7. But just before we're going to ship it, we can look at our new supply plan, do some optimization. And for those of you who are sort of saying, oh, hold on, Tom Moore's been around forever, he's old, and supply chains is load optimization's been around forever, and he did that before. We actually took our startup and merged it with an existing company, so we have load optimization. So now we can provide picking, guidance, loading, ERP, etc., etc. Gets all updated and very nice. Okay. So what does that do for us? It improves our visibility. It sure as heck reduces variability because we've taken the latest forecast and we've speed things to the market. So net, we've increased the weight per load. Again, I'm going to use this thing. Hopefully you guys can hear this.
Savings are supposed to be over $1 million a year just in this one plant. So, now we're looking at what about our Freeport, Texas plant? Who's next, right? So where else can we use this and take advantage of it for the increased weight per load, better load quality, better condition of the product, all of those things, easier to train, and of course, affecting sustainability.
So, oh, that's interesting. I'm not sure what we just did there, but the last slide somehow has disappeared. But let me tell you what it says. It says, we have reduced the cost, we have increased the sustainability, and we've provided something to our customers and to the world which reduces costs and improves the atmosphere, because obviously we've now taken the advantage of, we've improved cost, we've improved the on time in full, and we've reduced the carbon footprint. And more importantly, we can do this for much smaller companies. Companies that are, hundreds of millions, not necessarily billions, which is where we have traditionally worked, okay? So thank you, and thanks to CSCMP. And Maria's now telling me I'm out of time.
Tom, thank you. Provision AI. Questions? Any questions for Tom? No? All right. Well, thank you, Tom. What we're going to do right now is the judges are going to get together, and we're going to select the top contender for the 3V's and the top winner for the startup. So it'll just take us a few minutes. So we're going to go into a booth now and commiserate. We are back. It took a little longer than we anticipated because it was a hell of a competition. How about a nice round of applause for all of our 6 finalists? Thank you. And a nice round of applause for our judges. They put a lot of time and attention into reading, all of this. And then also I want to recognize Maria McDonald. Maria, raise your hand. She did all the work coordinating all this. Thank you, Maria. I'm going to turn it over to Art. Art's going to announce the winner of the 3V's and the startups. Art?
All right, thanks everybody. First of all, we had a little bit of tension as we kind of had a tie between AutoScheduler and Perfect Planner. And after a bunch of debate and arguments, and Perfect Planner is the winner. Although I would say it was extremely close.
This is the plaque that you're going to get once we grade this. All right, but we're going to take a photo of it. Right,
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I love that. Art, you coming?
Yeah, there we go.
Brother.
Hold on, what? Let me get back into that photo.
Okay.
And the second award winner, and I have to say personally that if there was a reason to create this award, I feel that this company exemplified it. They showed us something completely different, completely novel, and it has the ability to really change a whole industry. Today, an island gets a barge once a week. With Flying Ship, they might just get a barge every hour. The ability to support high velocity, high variable, it's the reason we create this award, to recognize something completely different that we would have never discovered if it wasn't for doing something like this. So on behalf of all of us, Flying Ship wins the Innovation Award, or the Startup Award, I'm sorry. Good job, Bill. Good job, Bill. Yeah. Everyone, thank you for your support. We're doing this to celebrate innovation and success. Let's keep spreading the word, and let's next year make it bigger and better. Thank you.